Coming up on Tech News today, jetpacks are here. If you got a couple $100,000 and a willingness to risk death, you can buy one. Also, Digg gets punked or not. We try to figure that one out. And your house is in a movie if you're watching in Chrome. Find out why.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, August 30th, 2010. Tech News Today is brought to you by Audible.com. To download a free audiobook of your choice, go to audiblepodcast.com/TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
I'm Sarah Lane.
Behind the boards, our excellent producer, Erik Lanigan.
One at a time, please.
This is the show where we're so excited we have to do
It was a collision.
That's my fault.
It was an introduction
I didn't write
collision.
an order in the introduction.
It's like a Shaw 1 collision.
It's okay.
We need introduction traffic directors next time.
We do. Should we just decide it's clockwise?
That's how it's been for the last couple.
That's always how we did it on Buzz Out Loud.
Actually, it's never how we've done it on the show.
Counterclockwise.
Because
or
I always
clockwise.
read how Tom writes it. But
Yeah.
I'm flexible.
I'll
Just a big
you want
orange
to just say
flag.
clockwise and be done with it?
I think that's the way we should go.
The big
Orange
flags?
flag.
Air
Yeah.
traffic control failed us.
Oh, you look so
Lane,
cool like
you're
those
ready
guys
for
on the
introduction.
carriers.
Sarah Lane.
Remember the intro of Top Gun with those guys? Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway, we do have tech news to talk about. Nintendo is going to drop the price on their DSi XL starting September 12th by 20 bones.
Yep.
20 bones
All
is
about
not
the
that many
Jacksons.
bones.
It's not that many bones,
I
actually.
mean, if they're trying to sell a bunch of units,
If you found $20 in your pants pocket, though, you'd be excited.
I'd be
right?
thrilled. But if you're talking about something that's over $100, if you're trying to move a lot of units, something like a $50 deduction would be like, wow, cool, good on you, Nintendo. 20 is like not that much.
Nintendo DSi will be $150, while the new suggested retail price for the DSi XL will be $170. The DS Lite does not get a price reduction. It continues to be sold for $130.
Well, the DS Lite is also like a generation old at this point. It's selling for $130. Supposedly, its build cost is only $90, and this is Nintendo we're talking about. So they typically don't lose any money on their hardware here. But I'm afraid that this drop. I mean, you have to do a drop when you come out with a new console. We all know that that the 3DS is coming, so it makes perfect sense that they would drop the price. In lieu of that, but by dropping only $20 makes me concerned that the 3DS is going to be a little bit more pricey than we would want it to be otherwise.
Could there also be if you drop it too much, then you'll sell so many units that people might be like, well, the 3GS looks great, but I did just buy this other one. It's like you want to sell a certain amount of units, but not so many that people are like, well, I've just got this. I should hold off on the 3DS.
That bears out what Darren's saying, which is they don't want to take the prices too far down, or they become that barrier to buying the 3DS. They want the 3DS to be close enough that if you're like, well, for only $20 more than the DSi XL, I could just get the 3DS. I can't believe they're still selling the DS Lite.
Yeah, the DS. Well, I mean, they must have just a ton of them.
They must have made a bunch, yeah. And also, does this mean no one's going to buy a mobile console from Nintendo between now and September 12th? Like, that's kind of far out. That's a couple of weeks out to announce a price cut. Usually you announce them the day you make the price cut.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Unless they knew there was going to be a leak and they're like, well, I might as well throw it out there now.
That wouldn't be the first time this has happened with Nintendo recently. So
that's true,
Maybe
actually.
they need to get a hold of that.
Intel is still buying stuff. They're just crazy. They bought McAfee, if you remember, and now they are buying Infineon's wireless unit for $1.4 billion. They announced this late Sunday. This is the wireless unit of Infineon that makes the baseband processors.
Right, so all of your CDMA chips, your GSM chips, the chips that actually speak with the carrier, that's great, because if anybody's poised to do some awesome finesse with it, it's the manufacturer of the chip that actually powers the smartphone's computer, if you will.
On the iPad as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, conceivably, with Intel owning both the application processors that they already make and now owning the baseband processors that Infineon makes, they could combine those into one smaller, more power-efficient package that's on one board and allow you to make smaller, longer battery life mobile devices.
Yeah, it's just like when you got, your integrated sound card on your motherboard. It's very similar.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a lot of people in writing about this today are calling it the last piece in Intel's mobile package. They've been buying mobile technologies and mobile companies now for a little bit, so they're just kind of piecing it all together, and it'll come with McAfee.
Now Intel sold to Marvell in 2006, sort of they kind of were like, well, this whole mobile thing, I don't know what to do with this. So that was, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, right.
A lot has changed in 4 years. Now mobile is the big thing. Smartphones, they got to get back in.
Yeah, so when you're Intel, you just throw down some cash. Like, let's buy that Infineon one.
We'll buy you. Yeah, you're good.
Thanks.
You do good chips. We've got a plan.
Infineon still will make its other products, though, and I would assume still sponsor the Raceway, right?
I'm new to this.
I hadn't even thought about
the
that.
Infineon Raceway right over here.
I still call it Sears Point.
Yeah.
So
now, is that
old school.
Is Sears Point the actual name of that area, or was that a sponsorship from Sears?
That's a very good question. It was Sears Point when I was a kid growing up, but I don't know if it was ever something before Sears Point. Someone in the chat room who knows a little bit about raceways probably has the answer.
You know how companies in San Francisco always go out to Giants games? TWiT should go to the Raceway, because that's like the nearest major sport arena.
Isn't there like
It's already about to puke.
I've heard.
Well, you know why? It's because it can get really hot at that raceway.
Oh, yeah.
It's like at the wrong time of year, a NASCAR event. It's like, I'm just hot thinking about it.
Yeah.
Boiling out there.
Really? No, I don't know. I could use some hot.
Yeah?
I could definitely
You
use
live in the East Bay. It's not hot enough for you out there?
No, it's cold.
Oh.
A lot more fog than up here.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not as much as San Francisco, but...
Well, maybe we should go to a NASCAR event. I can just douse myself with beer or something to keep cool.
That's all you need.
Workout.
I douse myself with beer on the inside quite often. BlackBerry is getting a 60-day India ban reprieve. If you recall, tomorrow was the last day BlackBerry was going to be allowed to operate many of their messenger-type services in India unless they had come into agreement to allow India to monitor the messages that go through BlackBerry's private networks. BlackBerry had suggested, well, let's have a forum where we get all the telcos in India together and we talk about this, because really there's no easy way to let you monitor this. We've been through this before. We don't make special deals with countries. And India said, no, we don't like that decision. But then today they kind of relented part way and said they will delay the ban on BlackBerry devices for 60 days while they review proposals from the gadget maker, Research in Motion. That's what the BBC says. That's why I read it so weirdly. But yeah, so they're going to take 60 days to review this stuff. That gives RIM a lot more time to actually come up with a plan. They have located servers within countries before. So when they say we've never done a special deal, yes and no. I mean, they
don't want to continue to do this.
They definitely do not. And it's turning into a pattern. If India wins this, then you know what's going to happen in United Arab Emirates and Lebanon and Jordan and Singapore and other countries who have expressed their trepidation at allowing BlackBerry Messenger to continue operating in their country without having a way to monitor.
Although I think it depends on how many people in the particular country are using RIM products.
Yeah.
Not enough people, then they might go, no, sorry, we said we weren't going to negotiate with individual countries.
We'll
We're just not
turn it
going to
off.
do this.
They're not going to
Somewhere like
really
India,
get it
though,
anyway.
you have too many people at
Way too
stake
many.
here. They have to play.
They've opened a can of worms.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yep.
It's a bit too late now.
Tasty can of worms. Nice to eat. Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Audible.com. Of course, Audible is the purveyor of audiobooks galore. More than 75,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. They've got fiction. They've got nonfiction. A lot of times people forget they have periodicals. You can listen to Scientific American out of the Audible store.
I have yet to do that.
What
a
great
missed opportunity.
way. I do that with some magazines where I get the magazine, but then I also get the audio version because there are times when I'm in the car or something, I can't read a magazine, but I could listen to it and catch up on some articles that way. It's the same advantage to having an audiobook, except in magazine form. And of course, they have tons of books, all kinds of books. In fact, if you're a Tech News Today listener, Audible is offering you a free audiobook. So whether you want to try an issue of a magazine or a full-on book, I just finished The Moon is a Harsh Mistress on Audible by Robert Heinlein.
Happy with it?
Great book to listen on audio because of the accent. I've mentioned this before, but
that's right.
It's written with a Russian accent in mind. And people are like, what do you mean written with a Russian accent? Well, they change the syntax and the spellings of words and use little Russian words here and there. So much easier to follow when you're actually listening to it because the guy's got a Russian accent. It all makes sense.
Maybe I'll go with Shogun for my free audiobook.
Yeah, Shogun.
I never get into it because
James Clavell.
it's such a big book, but maybe I could make it like an audiobook project over
That's one of the nice things about
or however long it'll take me.
Audiobooks, you can know exactly how long it's going to take you to read it. And
Yeah.
you can allocate that
I
time.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, download your audiobook for free. Any one you want. One of the ones we've mentioned or one you've just been having your eye on for a long time, didn't think you had time to get around to reading it. audiblepodcast.com/TNT. That's audiblepodcast.com/TNT. Go try one now. You can just put us on pause and come back to us after you get the book. We'll be here.
Unless we're watching it live.
Do come back.
And then you'll miss some
And
stuff.
finish, though.
Buffers. Yeah, you can pause. It'll buffer.
Well, you could leave the live one and then come back and finish the podcast later.
Yeah.
Or you could, if you're watching
Just-
live, just open a tab.
turn off Twitter
Yeah, just
because
open a
everyone will
tab.
ruin it for you.
Let's just agree to finish TNT, and then we'll go look for our books.
I think that's what
You
we're
could do it in a tab at the same time. Just saying. Okay, angry Digg users are flooding the Digg homepage with links to Reddit. Reddit and Digg are often seen as competitors. They do things in a little bit of a different way, but
Digg's also bigger overall.
there's a feud between their users sometimes, and Digg users are upset about the changes in Digg, about some of the features that were in Digg 3 that disappeared in Digg 4, about the fact that it looks like companies have a better chance of getting their stories on the homepage than just your average user, because they have these feeds now that feed all of your links from your website into. So Wired, Ars Technica, all these companies have these feeds, and so today they gamed the system, or at least that's the allegation, is that somebody gamed the system to get Reddit all over the front of Digg.
Which worked.
Yeah,
It was all over
In fact,
the front of Digg.
there's still a bunch of Reddit stuff up there.
The whole Digg thing is it's tough because so the other day over the weekend I was like, gosh, the Digg people have been complaining for a few days now. I happen to like version 4. It works a lot better for me, just personally, being able to follow people that I know a little bit better and then be able to look at the top stories in a different tab. But that aside, on the homepage, what are just the top stories? And it was like 10 Mashable stories. And it did seem like, why is Mashable all over the homepage of Digg? I mean, that's not normal. That's weird. So I looked, and it's like Mashable has created a bunch of different feeds based on their green channel and their mobile channel and, this and that, that's, I don't know, if they're allowed to do it, they're not doing anything wrong. But I can see as a user who's seen Digg, who's used to Digg working in a certain way for obviously a number of years now, going, well, Digg and Mashable must be in bed together in some sense, because why are they all over there's somebody's getting something out of this. I don't know if that's true. To my knowledge, it isn't, but I can see how that could be very frustrating.
Well, I'm looking at the Digg homepage right now, and obviously Digg and Reddit are in bed together. Because Reddit's got all kinds of stories up there.
That's a real conspiracy.
I'm just surprised that something on a social network changed and the users freaked out.
I know, it's so
this is
surprising.
I know.
It's shocking, isn't it?
What could possibly?
They're
what could
obviously
they
not
not
Facebook
like
users
about
as well.
change?
Yeah.
Especially when you take a hardcore audience like Digg, that is has
Digg has
helped
historically
propel them-
not liked change.
I mean, they're called Digg users for a reason.
because they use Digg.
Well, that too. Yeah.
Kevin Rose was
Because
on
they
This Week in
abuse
Tech.
Digg.
They've created a name for themselves, is what I'm getting at here.
Kevin Rose was on This Week in Tech yesterday, and it's worth a listen because he goes into all these problems and addresses them, and basically says we took some of these features away because we needed to get Digg 4 working.
Yeah.
We need to make it. We need to launch it and make it work, and we're going to try to put these back. They've already reinstated a few of the Digg 3 features, and they're going to try to add more. They're trying to get the thing stable. I mean, one of the reasons I haven't talked about it much on TNT is that every time I go to try to use it, I get the little Oregon Trail graphic because it's been down a lot. So I've been waiting for it to stabilize so I can actually use it and form an opinion about it.
Right. A lot of users aren't just mad because they think there's something going on behind the scenes. It's because the whole system isn't working very well.
Yeah.
Now, that's to be expected. With new versions, it would be great if they're flawless out of the gate, but sometimes it takes a couple weeks
Right.
to
And sometimes when the
get your
stability
code right.
shakes up, you got to turn off features here or there.
Exactly.
Just tweak it so that you can keep the core functionality going.
Earlier today, they froze manual story submissions for a while just so they could work on it.
These Reddit
Yep.
people.
You've ever had
We've had
experience
enough.
with that, Darren?
No, never.
Managing,
My servers have always stayed up.
you never had to
That's why my
freeze
lower
anything.
third says hack5.org right now. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And there goes your site.
I know. Again.
All right, Samsung. This, usually when we report a story like this, 1 million phones sold in 45 days, you would assume it's Apple, but it's Samsung this time, with the Samsung Galaxy S in its two forms that are sold on AT&T, the Captivate, and T-Mobile, the Vibrant. They have sold 1 million of these in 45 days. Not quite as fast as an iPhone has sold, but when you consider that they did virtually no marketing for this, there was no big Steve Jobs-like announcement. There was no big TV campaign.
They didn't get the Google homepage like the Droid.
And people are just looking at it. You can get a Vibrant for free. I mean, you can just sign a contract and get a deal at some places. So people are looking at this and saying, oh, wait, I'm sorry, not the Vibrant, the Captivate. People are looking at this price saying, well, yeah, I guess I could spend $200 on an iPhone, but that Captivate looks pretty darn good. It works really well, and it's got Android. I'll get that one for free. Why not? Price wins in this case.
Doesn't price always win?
Not always.
always.
No, I think Apple is
mean-
proof of that.
Exactly.
Well,
But this is also proof that there are people who are interested in buying things other than iPhones. The whole argument of like, well, if the iPhone was just available on all carriers, then that's all anybody would have. I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all.
I think that is
People want
becoming less and less true all the
Less
time.
and less true. Android is growing like a weed, and some people don't want anything to do with the iOS.
And it's
One
only going to
Android
get
phone.
better for Samsung because they're coming to Verizon and Sprint later on this year. Right?
So there you have it.
Yeah. Sprint's Epic 4G is, we'll get to that in the calendar. That's going on sale tomorrow.
Samsung.
Watch out for Samsung. Also, watch out for Google, always. But in this case, because they're
Why?
in
What are they
talks
doing?
with major studios to rent movies via YouTube. They've been renting movies on YouTube for a while, actually.
I was surprised. Since January, they kind of quietly started testing it, I guess, to see what the response would be. And I had no idea.
Yeah, what they're trying to do here, they've created a rental section on YouTube already, and there's a ton of indie movies in there, and they want to strike a deal with major Hollywood studios to make YouTube on-demand video service available simultaneously with DVD release for around $5. At least that's what the Financial Times is reporting. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, isn't Netflix already 30 days behind? Because of, with some of the studios
their
anyway?
actual physical DVD rentals are 30 days behind. I don't know about their streaming. I think their
Got it.
streaming is sometimes farther
Yeah.
and sometimes not. But they did that so they could widen the catalog of streaming, essentially.
right. And I think this is great because if anybody's going to be able to do this, Google is large enough that they can, and they are on a plethora of devices already. But I'm not holding my breath to see whether or not all of those devices might be compatible. I mean, you said yourself you've got a TV that's got Google.
Yeah, I've got a Bravia that's got a YouTube widget.
Yeah,
So I can launch the widget and watch videos that way, but I don't know if it's going to work with some rental service that hasn't been set up. Well, I don't know. I should try.
Yeah, that's what I'm loving to see. Like,
because this TV
already
is not
exists
very
right now.
old,
You
but
can
it's
test this
over
out.
a year old.
Right.
Well, exactly.
Actually, it's under a year old.
How do you integrate that payment system in an elegant way to all these different services? There's YouTube on the Apple TV. Would you allow
By the way,
rentals
these widgets
there?
aren't very elegant on my TV anyway.
There's
They're
YouTube
there,
on the
but
Roku.
they're not.
There's YouTube on your television. But how do you make that? I mean, so easily they could make these rentals available. It's just how do you get people to pay for them? Are they going to integrate with PayPal?
other than the
You're
Google
gonna-
set-top box,
Google
which I'm not
checkout?
holding my breath about.
Yeah, well, it's obviously going to go into the set-top box, that's for sure. And they're talking about integrating with PayPal for stuff rather than just Google Checkout, at least in the Android store. So could they do
But
that
if
for
they
YouTube
integrate
as
with
well?
PayPal, will someone take all my money?
You will, in renting all those great movies, $5 a pop. This is, if this comes true though, if they do strike this deal, it's going to be a huge 180 from 5 years ago when the studios were crying for blood and Viacom began their suit. And NBC and Fox got together and started Hulu to crush YouTube because all they have is pirated videos and videos of cats. And as soon as we get rid of their pirated videos, they'll die, and Hulu will crush them. Crush them, I tell you. That's how they talked. And it hasn't turned out that way.
No.
And so YouTube will only get huger if they add major Hollywood studio videos, don't you think?
Yeah, YouTube's already on the campaign to change the image of these are just crappy videos of cats or, people hurting themselves by running into trees and things like that. There's YouTube series and there's a whole division, and the Google TV. I mean, that's and I don't even know how
they've just got such a platform that's everywhere that maybe they could push out, like maybe some of the different device manufacturers could push that out so that it's just, oh hey, it's just a click, it's built into my TV,
right?
And I love the idea that just push out an update and maybe we could have that functionality.
People in the chat room are pointing out there's nothing wrong with cat videos.
Oh, I prefer them over almost anything else, but I am not necessarily a majority in every circle.
The feline here.
As well, you shouldn't.
No.
They have claws.
That's right. And then they know how to use them. Oxford English Dictionary might never go into print again.
What? Tom? How will we know how to spell anything? How will we win at Scrabble?
We're talking about the 20-volume Oxford English Dictionary.
Ooh.
If you have the, what's it called?
The one that comes out every 50 years or so?
Yeah, it's only in the second edition. The first edition came out in 1928, I believe, if I remember that
good
right.
Year.
The second edition came out in 1989, and the third edition is still being worked on. They have 28% of it complete.
So another decade or so.
Yeah, a decade or two, maybe.
So the idea that, knowing how quickly the whole ebook revolution has ramped up in just the last few years, if we're talking another 10 years out on the old Oxford English, I could see that not being a print version.
Yeah, now there's the Oxford Dictionary of English, which is a single volume one. It's similar to a Merriam-Webster. It's the one you buy at the bookstore, and that's not what we're talking about. The Oxford English Dictionary. This
is more of like an encyclopedia level.
Yeah, this is huge. You can buy a compact version that's in 2 volumes, but you have to get a magnifying glass because all they've done is they've shrunk the text down incredibly small. I have that
It's
at
the
home.
British way.
It's pretty awesome.
You've still got it, but you're going to need a
And they
magnifying
do
glass.
have the Oxford English Dictionary second edition available online. Some of it's available for free, some of it with a subscription. So it's already digital. But what started this all off is Nigel Portwood, chief executive of the Oxford University Press, did an interview with the Sunday Times of London, which you can read if you have a subscription, and said the print dictionary market is disappearing. It's falling away by tens of % a year. They asked him, do you think that the third edition of OED would be printed? He said, I don't think so, adding that he thought print dictionaries in general might vanish completely within 30 years. Now, that set up a hubbub, and Oxford University Press quickly came out with a press release that says, no decision has yet been made on the format of the third edition. It's likely to be more than a decade before the full edition is published. But I think it's fair to say what Nigel Portwood was trying to get across was, by the time we get around to publishing this, we may not need to print anything anymore. So, yeah, it's likely we wouldn't make a print version.
Or what if you just make a print version and just make a few million fewer copies or something? I don't even know how many. It's like
there's got to be at least one print copy, so that 100
someone's
million
going to
years.
want the physical copy, and probably a lot fewer people will in 10 years.
I think
plus.
you're right. I think it would be wrong to say you'll not print any copies.
Because for some people just want that.
And
you probably would.
Yeah,
want
sure.
a physical.
I'm nerdy like that.
I know you and your library stuff.
Well, the libraries are going to want a printed copy,
Exactly.
and hopefully that will be there so that, in 100 billion years when the aliens come, they'll...
I think we're missing the bigger
some
point here,
record of
though,
us.
which is if they've got 28% of the work done on the next one. Why isn't that available online? Just the thing about online is you don't have to come out with an edition.
Why hold it back?
You just continually update it all the time. And then when you get the third edition done and you finalized it, then you would print one or put it out on CD-ROM or as an ebook or whatever the publishing model is at that time.
Mail out a
Holographic
DVD.
room that you sit in and let the definitions fly around you.
Just imagine, opening up your e-reader and then downloading your Oxford English Dictionary updates,
Sweet.
Get your service pack on. It's going to be good. Check out the diffs. See
Yeah.
what's new in the README.
Right.
I'd read the README.
And then they'll recall Service Pack 2, not stable.
Yeah.
well.
There are some bad words in there.
There's bad words. That definition is giving me a virus.
Yeah.
Made me look really
Maybe they
stupid
should just follow
tonight.
the Urban
My book
Dictionary
club.
model.
Yeah. Well, also an indication that we are living in the future is jetpacks are finally on sale. Jetpacks have been around forever, but you couldn't buy one. But we now have...
We're talking about the jetpacks that you put on and then you fly around.
Yes.
Yes.
Those
I'm
kinds of
reaching for
jetpacks.
my
Just
credit
making
card
sure.
right now.
rocket belts.
Yeah,
Yes.
rocket belts.
Mexican startup Tecnologia Aeroespacial Mexicana offers a custom-built TAM rocket belt for $250,000, which includes flight and maintenance training. On a full tank of hydrogen peroxide, the belt weighs 124 to 139 pounds and provides 30 seconds of flight.
I'm putting my credit card
Hydrogen
back.
peroxide.
You could dye your hair and
Exactly. I was
and
going to say,
fly.
you
Yeah.
might bleach your clothing,
Bleach your
but you'll
clothes.
have a lot of fun doing it.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be able to cure your scratches from the crash landing when you
Hence-
fly
Who-
30
who-
seconds straight up in the air
who's
and
my
then
trainer?
don't have enough to come down.
The training,
Somebody
the training's
from
included,
TAM.
but
Yeah.
I'd like them to be really, really knowledgeable about
That's why the guy in the
jetpack.
photo looks like the Stig. It's because all the dye.
There's also Jetpack International, a Colorado-based company that sells what it calls the world's longest flying jetpack because it goes in the air for 33 seconds.
33 seconds.
3
That's
seconds
3
longer
seconds
than TAM's model. The H202 weighs 139 pounds and is competitively priced at $155,000, flight classes and all.
You can go
So
70
competitive.
miles an hour.
I'm telling you, man. Why
I'm
would you
gonna
go
hold
with the
off on
TAM?
the 3DS.
The
Get a jetpack.
H202, 33. You get 3 more seconds and $100,000 less.
You just need to couple that with like a motorcycle and a ramp off the Golden Gate Bridge, and then like right at the nick of time, you just hit the button. And
Now, Jetpack International, their founder Troy Widgery did point out if something goes wrong, you can get killed.
oh, never mind. We're not going to do that thing I
Yeah.
just said.
So,
Side effects include death.
yes, exactly. You do have to take that account before you run out and drop down that $200,000 that I know you have sitting in your back pocket.
Skydiving is kind of a rush too, and it's a lot less money.
And
You
it
don't have
also,
a- you don't
also
have a
has a
jetpack.
possible side effect of death.
But what if you
Also-
were looking
right.
for a thrill, but you didn't have a lot of time?
It's like the opposite of skydiving. You go up.
Yeah.
You're against
Yeah,
gravity.
but with skydiving, you got to get on a plane. You got to come back down. There's a
can't
parachute involved. With this, you just strap on your
it's still
your
only like
rocket belt.
150.
You go up for 30 seconds, and then you're done. You're on to something new. You got money to throw away, but you only got a little time for fun. This is your thing.
You've got to really think about what you're going to do in those last few seconds, because 33 seconds is up, and you're.
I'm pretty sure after the first
400.
second, I'm already like, where am I going to land?
It's great for going down to
Me
the
too.
corner store.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that with skydiving.
Nope.
I'm walking a block. I got a
Yeah.
jetpack.
Exactly.
Paid 200,000 bones
I've
for
got
this.
a mother
and I
effing
will use it.
jetpack, and I'm going to use it.
Where's my peroxide?
Yeah. Think about your wake.
Honey, I need to fill up the jetpack. All right, on to the news fuse. According to the Telecommunications Market Commission's blog from Spain, Chile has become the first country to guarantee net neutrality by law. The law assures that any internet user will be able to use, send, receive, or offer any content, applications, or legal services over the internet without arbitrary or discriminatory blocking. So congratulations, Chile. Good luck getting your packets out of your country.
Goodbye, ATI. AMD officially announced its plans to label its next round of graphics cards AMD Radeon and AMD Fire Pro with new logos and everything. AMD bought ATI 4 years ago, RIP.
Chat Roulette version 2 is relaunched with a simpler interface and still the same content appearing on camera. Yeah, that content. Users without video cameras have also reported the inability to use any portion of the site.
Which may be a benefit for them. Xbox Live Gold is going to raise its prices. US, UK, Canada, and Mexico, folks, start November 1st. The 1 month price goes from $8 to $10. The 3 month price goes from $20 to $25, and the year price goes from $50 to $60. Although Microsoft's going to run a lock-in promo for a discounted $40 1-year gold subscription starting November 1st. So get out there and stock up on those Xbox Live cards.
TechCrunch is reporting that one of their sources tells them Cisco has made an offer to acquire Skype before Skype completes its initial public offering of stock. Google was also rumored to be interested, but antitrust concerns apparently have scared them off.
Yeah, then they would own everything SIP and VoIP related.
Clearwire just launched a Rover service which offers 4G starting at $5 a day and costing $20 a week or $50 a month. It only uses 4G, and you do need to buy a $150 Rover puck or a $100 USB stick.
I'm shocked to learn that Google has backed out of the Java 1 conference. Google's Joshua Block said in a blog post, Oracle's recent lawsuit against Google and open source has made it impossible for us to freely share our thoughts about the future of Java and open source generally. Oracle bought Java when they bought Sun and been pissing people off right and left ever since.
Oracle needs to be careful how they pick their battles, because even if they win this, they're still just going to, cause a lot of fragmentation within their developer community. And as we know from open source, it's really the developers that choose what platforms are going to thrive.
Yeah, they closed Solaris. What do they care?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could all just switch to C for our Android needs, since Android does run C.
Or let's splinter Java more.
Yeah, we could do that.
Question for you, gentlemen.
Yes.
And ladies listening. Would you like your iPad to work like Microsoft Surface? Because
Sure.
Bertrand Duplat and Etienne Minier, my French is pretty bad, at Volumique say they have something like that working. One example they're using is a board game. The pieces would be recognized when placed on the iPad screen, would even recognize which direction they were facing. Think of the possibilities.
Warhammer.
D&D.
Definitely. Yeah.
Shoots and ladders.
Monopoly.
I don't have
something
any more.
else.
Hi-ho Cheerio.
Checkers.
Pokemon cards. I don't play those.
Me either.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Maybe.
it can recognize cards too, not just.
Did you
pieces.
see the video though? I mean, the guy's really pushing it down on the screen.
Well, but it works.
Okay, it works.
They would the pieces would probably have to be
See, I
weighted.
imagine
so it's not like
something
you could
like-
just make up your own
Right.
things that were sort of like flimsy or.
Well, yeah, but
empty
I
can of
imagine
Coke is
I
gonna-
imagine like chess and stuff, and that would be really, really cool, especially, I don't know, with the graphics and everything. It would make
It's
it awesome.
I
pretty
agree.
nifty, I have to say.
It's pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit of you're using real world
I saw a D&D.
hand carved chess pieces
We did
on
a-
the iPad.
We did a piece from PAX where some people had some university kids had put together a D&D game based on Microsoft Surface. Really slick stuff.
Oh, that sounds cool. All right. Google and the band Arcade Fire have teamed up to show off what HTML5 can do. It's best viewed in Chrome, but it takes the song We Used to Wait and then incorporates Google Maps satellite view and Google Street View to actually show your childhood home woven into the video.
So we're playing the video now, and
Make
actually
it
it
all
takes like a good minute to get into it.
reminiscent
But what
of.
you do is, you type in your address, the same thing that you would do with, if you wanted to look at your old house on Google Street View, and then it sort of has this clever way of
You can put any
incorporating it
address
into
in there.
any address. Yeah. The idea is it's supposed
It's
to
trying to
invoke
tug on the
nostalgic
heartstrings
feeling.
here.
Totally.
Yeah.
Tom and I both tried it, and we both went. Tom said, "Well, it didn't really get my address right. It was like nearby."
It didn't seem like I never saw my actual childhood home. Like it didn't have the impact. So I never actually looked and went like, oh yeah, there's the house I grew up in. And then the satellite photos are low res for that area.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of
That's the
goofy
problem I had
looking.
with mine too, because I lived so far out in the sticks that they've never actually scanned anything good enough. So the house that I really care about the most, it didn't really work that well. So I had to choose a house I lived in that was within the city limits.
Well, we try to hear at
Boy,
the
for a
cottage.
country girl, that was a big
Man,
deal.
The parking lots look amazing here.
Yeah.
above
The
with
parking
flying-
lots are
Yeah, so this
breathtaking.
is
Yes, they
actually
are.
our neighborhood in Petaluma where we are right now. So I'm not feeling a lot of nostalgia because I've only worked here for a few months. But maybe in a few years I'll be crying watching this.
And regardless of the heartstrings, I think this should be the new acid test, as Tom has showed us with his browser at least, that, if you want to see what your browser is capable of, try this.
best viewed in Chrome. Doesn't work in IE at all.
It's
Can
worth-
work in Firefox.
It's worth noting that I had tweeted this link out earlier and said, hey, if you like lived in one single home when you were growing up, this is probably going to work better for you than for me. And I had a flood of responses from people going, oh my gosh, that was so amazing. Thank you so much. So I do think it just depends on what address you're putting in and what it means to you.
YMMV.
Look at that. They're coloring the photos, or they're coloring the Google Street View to look older, to look
Yeah.
like an
They
They
aged
give it a little
photograph.
Like a
sepia
sepia,
tone
yeah.
to it. Yeah. Is it sepia? Okay, yeah. Who knows? One of those.
More like just faded Kodachrome.
If we had the Oxford English Dictionary here, we might know.
Seriously, I'm going to go look it up.
See, look at that park. That's a beautiful parking lot.
I remember growing up in that parking lot.
I remember parking.
The parking lots. They
How
don't
many
make them
times
like
have
they
I not
used
parked
to.
in there because it's limited to 2 hours?
Well, maybe you would remember
Every
if you really
day.
were parking.
Every day.
Let's move on to the calendar. We mentioned the Epic 4G earlier.
Yeah, Epic 4G launches tomorrow. It's going to be $250.
Sign me up.
So
4
start
inches with a
saving your
physical
pennies.
This has really made me take back what I said earlier about the Droid Pro, because Droid Pro 4-inch, and I said there's no way, because it was wishful thinking that they would pop a keyboard in that. Well, I don't know. Epic can bring it. So what you got, Motorola? But yeah, definitely. If I don't have service by the end of the day, I'm definitely going to Sprint tomorrow.
Also on the calendar, as of today, Roku is offering their Roku SD, HD, and HD XR products for $59.99, $69.99, and $99.99, respectively. Darren, you're also a Roku user, so you'd
Dude, I
be
love
excited
this.
about this. Well, unless
$60
you already
for
have
a
one and
Roku
you're
is
not going
like
to buy another
the
one.
least expensive and most bang for the buck media center that you can get. $60.
What does the XR have that the HD alone doesn't?
It's got the
we know the
N
difference?
Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Yeah, they all have Wi-Fi built in. The SD obviously is standard def, HD is
Right.
high def, and the XR has the dual Wi-Fi and a USB port, so you can add storage to it.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
Play stuff off
Got
of
it.
TWiT will be at Dragon Con on Saturday night, September 4th. Well, we're going to be there all weekend. We're going to be streaming live, so check out our special coverage. But we're going to have a meetup specifically Saturday night, September 4th, from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Sundial Restaurant, top of the West in Peachtree in downtown Atlanta. You don't need to be going to Dragon Con to come to the meetup. You can just come on down, brave the crowds, find a parking space, come up to the Sundial. It rotates, but it's not very fast, so don't worry. If you are coming, we would appreciate it if you'd let us know. RSVP to Lisa at twit.tv so we can get a head count and kind of know how many people to expect. But we're looking forward to seeing you there. Veronica Belmont from Sword and Laser is going to be there. Brian Brushwood will be there briefly, I think. He's going to try to hang out at the beginning before he heads off to his magic show. So do come by and check it out. On to the voicemails. 260-TNT show is our voicemail number, and we got one from a caller who has a question about the clothing we mentioned that could have batteries woven into it.
Hey guys, this is Kevin in Kansas City. I was just listening to the show last week about the spray-on batteries and embedding batteries in fabrics. I was just thinking, I hope they don't have the problem of catching on fire or exploding. I'd hate to have that happen to my shirt, especially if I was sitting on an airplane. Love the show.
Do you think he would be sitting on the airplane?
With
That'd
his
just
shirt?
be a
Yeah.
weird place to sit. I mean, you'd think that TSA would be very upset.
Oh, you
with
mean like on top of the airplane?
Yeah.
Not in the airplane?
Where I
think
saw
he
it.
meant in the airplane.
Oh,
Darren.
in the airplane.
Yeah, you're being literal in that.
Am I?
Yeah.
I think I just went there. Okay.
Well, it was an exploding battery joke. What are you supposed to do?
That's what I've got. That's what I'm bringing to this.
I don't think, because it's not a lithium-ion battery, that it would probably
Your
explode.
Well, it's a
underwear
virus
probably
battery,
isn't
right?
going to explode.
Now I'm being literal, Net.
Your viruses may explode.
Virus may explode. On to the email to TNT at twit.tv. We got one from Jack in New Jersey. He was among a smattering of people who wrote in and pointed out that Firefox isn't excited that H.264 is going to be royalty-free for end users until the end of time because, well, Firefox isn't an end user. We may have pointed this out or we may have missed it. I can't remember, but H.264 is only royalty-free for the end user. If you build software or if you make something that includes H.264 that you're selling, you're going to have to still strike a licensing agreement with MPLA. So couple this, he says, with the article earlier blog posting from the YouTube team of why they don't like HTML5, and it still doesn't look like H.264 HTML5 is a clear winner yet. I agree, but at the same time, H.264 just got a huge leap on WebM. When it's royalty-free to the end user, then end users are going to be very happy to shoot and record and upload from H.264. So, you know, WebM still has a chance. We're not counting it out yet. But thanks for writing in, Jack.
Smash Bros. Boys writes in and says, "Hey TNT crew, I was just listening to Friday's discussion about Google's introduction of Google Voice into Gmail and how this could possibly light the way for data-only plans for like Android phones, letting them use 3G or Wi-Fi to make Google Voice calls. And Leo brought up the idea of using Google Voice everywhere on iPod Touch with a MiFi, but then dismissed it as Apple does not allow it. Well, as it turns out, you can still use an iPod Touch with Google Voice. If you're lucky enough to have a Gizmo 5 account, you can connect SIP you can connect this with Google Voice and forward all the calls to one of the SIP apps in the App Store, SIP, the protocol. Using Google Voice's website on the iPod Touch to place calls and texts, you now have a phone using an iPod Touch and a MiFi. Love the show.
That's a nice little workaround. So it's still a little clunky because you have to have one app open for receiving and a website open for placing calls. But I guess you just keep the one for receiving open all the time until it's time to make a call, and then you switch over to the website.
Of course, that's all you have to do. I mean, as it is always, there's a hack for that. And hopefully I don't know, does Google Voice do SIP natively? Or is it only because of the Gizmo 5 connection? I don't know.
That is a very good question. I don't know what
Voice,
that new Gmail thing does, but it's based on Gizmo, so I would assume it's SIP.
Yeah, I would hope so. I mean, Google's the one that uses XMPP for the messaging, so you would hope.
All right, last email from Steven says, I love watching your show and all the other TWiT.tv shows. I got a good chuckle the other day when you said when all the news was Microsoft back in the day, and then a day or two later, there was some coverage on the potential new Apple releases, and one of them was wireless syncing on the iPad, iPhone to iTunes as a new feature. But nobody realizes, or at least they don't mention, that this has been in place since the original Zune that Microsoft made. This is old news from Microsoft, and now it's something great just because it's Apple. I still don't get all the hoopla over Apple. I assume the Zune Sync will be in the Windows 7 Phone 7 also. Just my 2 cents.
We got a few emails like this from Zunies who are like, yeah, playlist, shareable, wireless syncing.
Whoopity-doo.
Yeah, had that for a long time.
They also
to which the snappy person in me said, can you make calls with your Zune? But then he did say Windows Phone 7 probably have that, so they will eventually be able to do that. But still, that's a good point. Like, if that's what Apple's big announcement ends up being on Wednesday, like, the Zune people are going to be pointing and laughing.
Yeah. Just goes to show you how much tunnel vision you can have, though, if you choose. I don't have a Zune. I don't know much about the Zune marketplace. I mean, I'm pretty much in the dark about that it's like that could be completely unbeknownst to me that this has been available to all sorts of other people, and I go, wireless syncing, all right, we're in the future.
Of course, Darth Galt points out, we already point and laugh because you know what? That's how they roll.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening to the show. Of course, you can catch more of Darren Kitchen.
Yeah, we're playing with the Android app inventor on Hack5, HAK5.org.
Check it out. Also, you can give us a call, 260-TNT-SHOW. Leave us a voicemail, or you could record a video voicemail. Send us the link to the uploaded version, TNT@twit.tv. That's our email address for everything. And you can find us on the web with links to our wiki, which has our show notes at twit.tv/TNT. We'll see you tomorrow.